Hi, welcome to Model Railroad University's course 103 on wiring and mounting tortoise switch machines. In the last episode, I actually showed you how to wire the tortoise, and I went ahead and wired up my second one. So why am I so determined to mount up two? Well, I've been saying that I'm going to mount it in a crossover. So let's take a quick look at what is a crossover. I have two parallel tracks running down here, and I have a crossover track. I can run from one main line or one switching track to another. Now, the real railroad actually has rules about how those turnouts need to be aligned. If you're traveling on the line and you're a switchman, and this switch is straight, the other switch must be straight also. If you throw this switch to the siding, and let's go back to a close view for you here. If I throw this one to the siding, then I must also throw this one to the siding. You need to throw them both at the same time. It's just a rule on the railroad. That actually prevents accidents, because if I threw it to the siding here and this one was straight, I could have a train going through and the other train would run right into the side of it. So not so good to do. So the rule on the railroad is if you throw them either both parallel or you throw them both at an angle. So now we need to figure out what we're going to do to actually get the tortoises mounted and wired together. And the first thing that I've done is to figure out that I've got to get the turnout actually in what I call the neutral position. The same position that I had on the tortoise switch machine. Remember when I left it last, I left it in that neutral position after it was wired. So with the white card, you can see that I've taken some sticks and I've actually pointed them. Now this is just a 6x6 or an 8x8 piece of wood. And on the one end, I've tied a string onto it, and that goes over to my other. Okay, so let's see if we can get these sticks to go into position. I'm going to take the switch and push it over a little bit, put one in there. Then I'll come in from the other side here. Maybe you can see a little bit better. Going back a little bit. And hopefully get one in there. Okay, now let's look at it. I got lucky. The reveal, the space between my stock rail and my throw rail here, or my point rail, is about equal to the stock rail, point rail over there. Just a little bit. Okay, so that's kind of in the center, and that's where I want it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold those down so they can't move. Then I'm going to take my Dremel tool with a number 56 drill bit in it. That's the same size, remember, as what we used on the rod that we put in the tortoise switch machine. And then I'm going to drill down through that hole. And I want to make sure that it goes all the way down through. I'm using 1/2-inch plywood, so I drilled all the way through. Then I'm going to take those out. And the next thing that I made, we'll bring the white card back in here, is I took that original 025 rod that was provided with the tortoise switch machine, and I've bent it into a loop U on one end. I've left the other end essentially pointed. And so we're going to take that and drop that down through that hole. And that little loop just prevents it from dropping all the way. The next thing that I want to do, if I can find it here, is I took Circuitron provides you with a green piece of plastic that you can buy. That's their mounting template. And I simply taped that onto a piece of metal here. I think this is 16th-inch steel. And I drilled it on the drill press through in the 4 locations for the 4 locator holes and for this throw rod hole. And I put some sandpaper on it, and of course I painted it red. I'd paint everything red so I can find them around here. But that's got sandpaper on both sides. Now, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to go underneath, and I'm going to run this rod right down. See if you can get around here so you can see it. I'm going to run that rod right down through that locator hole on the bottom side. And then I can locate these 4 holes for mounting either in this orientation, or I could mount them the other way. Now, I do not want to mount it at an angle, because then my throw would be going at a diagonal also. I want it to go straight across this perpendicular to the tracks is what I want to say. So one way or the other. If I had a support here or if I had a support over here, I could avoid it by simply turning it either way. I just don't want to do it on an angle. So let's go underneath and we'll see what we do with the template and how we actually go about mounting up the tortoise underneath the railroad. Okay, I'm underneath the layout now and I'm ready to start mounting. And I've had a lot of people comment about how hard this is. In actuality, it is extremely easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Dremel tool here with a drill bit in it. This is about a 1/16 drill bit that I have. And then I have that neat tool that I made from Circuitron, which makes the tortoise switch machine. And I'm going to put this up into position. Now I'm going to make sure, I know that my tracks are parallel to the sides of the railroad over here. It may not look like it on your camera, but it is parallel. I'm going to hold that tight, and then I'm going to drill my 4 mounting holes. And with that done, that's looking pretty good. Normally I would mark those in case I get called away. I can come back, but I would mark those with the magic marker. Okay, so now I'm going to reach around here behind, and I'm going to pull this wire out because it needs to be gone. Okay, the next thing I want to do is take my drill bit over here, and because I made the mistake and I've already mounted everything up, I need to widen this hole with the it's going to have the throw bar. So I'm using a Forstner bit. This is a bit that drills a flat bottom hole, and it has really sharp edges here, but that pin will hold me right on that hole that I drilled from up above. So I'll just start drilling on it. I'm doing really light pressure because I sure don't want to go too far up into that plywood, because if I do, I'm going to be in really big trouble. So I've gone really gently. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Dremel tool with my router bit on it. And I've already set this so that the depth is just a few thousandths underneath the 1/2 inch dimension. And so I'm going to go up here. You see I'm not quite up there, which is good. So let's go all the way up, and then we'll widen this a little bit in the direction of the throw across this way. Okay, now when I go back up on top, I'm going to check that dimension and actually see, hopefully, that I have not gone through the throw bar. So I have my hole now for my wire to go. So what I have here is a very long bit. This is a 6-inch bit. It's a number 1 tip, number 1 Phillips. Now, why do I use such a long bit? Because obviously I don't really need it. But once you've done this a couple of times, you find out that this is extremely helpful. Because if this tortoise switch machine were mounted up right here next to my, let's turn around the other way, right next to my brace, which sometimes I can't get anything else in here except that really thin bit. So this thin bit, number 1 Phillips tip really comes in handy. So let's take a screw. I'm going to put a screw over here on the far side, just like that. Now I'm trying to do a guesstimate. You notice I didn't set it. I've hopefully left that. We'll do another one here. I've hopefully left that just enough so that it will clear that flange way. Because now what I can do, there we go. You can see the hole there for the throw bar. All right, so I'm going to give you an eyeball view, I hope, of this, where you can see up in there to where I'm going. I've got the throw bar going right up through that tie rod. I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it around. My throw rod is in place. So all I have to do now is put those 2 screws right there in place. So what I have now is I have the switch machine mounted up, and it's just hanging by those 2 screws. So now, if I can find my screwdriver down here, reach down, and what I can do now is take the other 2 screws, and actually I normally just do 1, but I'm going to run that right up there and mount that. And that's all it really takes to mount this tortoise switch machine. It's in place, and it's going to throw exactly the right distance, exactly the way it should throw when we put the electricity to it. Now, the other thing that I would normally do, and I did not bring it down here, I don't think, is my tester. I'd take that soapbox reversing tester and test this and make sure that my black and gray leads, that I'm still getting a throw and that this thing is moving all the way. The other thing I want to show you, this tool right here is nothing but a piece of bent brass rod, and I've made some really tight bends on it, and it's just U-shaped like that. You can see what I can do is I can reach around on the front side of this, and my throw bar, or my fulcrum here, was really up to the top. Sometimes that's really tight spacing. So what I can do is I can grab that with this little device, and I can actually pull that down. Hopefully, if I've got a hold of it, I do. I can pull that and adjust it pretty much any place I want further down. The further down I pull it, the more it's going to move up on top. So if it's not throwing enough to go all the way over and touch your points, simply pull the fulcrum here down a little bit, and it will cause that rod to move still further. And that's why we did the stiff wire, so that we have more ability to push. Okay, let's take a break. We'll go back up on top and make sure everything's moving. And in the meantime, I'm also going to go ahead and mount the second of the tortoise switch machines so that it's ready for us when we go to wire these things up. Hi, I'm back on top of the world. Well, at any rate, I'm in the home stretch on top of the railroad. I have both of my turnouts wired up here with my tortoises, and I'm ready to test them. I want to make sure that they work properly. So I've taken my tortoise tester, I've hooked my black wire up to the black wire of this throw. Let's move that out of the way for a minute. To the black wire of the front throw, the black wire of the back throw. I've wired my gray wire out of the tester to the gray wire here and the gray wire here. So everything's tied together. I have 3 wires tied together, all the blacks, all the grays. And you can see, I think, let's change your view. If you look down, you'll see that I have a gap here and a gap over here on this side. And let's try and throw that. Yeah, let's try it again. There we go. Didn't turn in the right direction. So now you can see that they have both thrown the opposite direction. Great news. And if I throw them the other way, yep, they go back the other way. Now you'll notice that this wire at the front here on my front switch is a long wire. Jim Sorsey at NCE wrote in and said to leave these long and cut them off after I've put them up. That's what I've done for a long time, and Jim is 100% right. I do listen to people who write in and give me suggestions. That's the way we learn, is by sharing information. So it doesn't all have to come from me. Please write on the blog or write some comments about what you see here, and I'll see if I can't cover whatever you need in some of the future things. Okay, the first thing I want to do here then is cut these wires off because they're too long. Now, what I have to be very careful of, however, is this is a plastic throw bar, and this is a hard metal. So no matter whether I'm cutting off one or the other, I need to go very slowly. I'm going to cut a little bit from this side, then I'm going to cut my other one, then I'm going to cut a little bit from this side, then I'm going to cut the other one. I'm going to move back and forth between these as I cut. Now what I'm also going to do, this is now really sharp, and I don't like that very much. So let's take it, go sideways, and we'll grind that off a little bit. Okay, so now I have them down low enough that they will clear my cars, hopefully. So let's bring the cars back down here, the one we had, and we'll run through that. That's so far so good. We're on this track over here. We'll throw the turnouts, both of them through to the crossover. And that's all right. So far so good. We'll throw them back straight. And bingo. So I've completed my turnouts. Now, I need to control these turnouts. And the way I'm going to do that, or there were several ways that I can do that, and one of them, quite obviously, is to go back to using my crossover switch. The other way that I could wire up that turnout, that crossover, is with a rabbit. So actually the rabbit can control anything from 2 to 4 turnouts, depending on how they're wired. That's the subject of our next episode. It'll be course 104, and it'll be how to program the rabbits and taking a look at some of the other switches for controlling tortoise switch machines. So until next time, have fun model railroading.